Today is Thursday, June 12th, the year of our Lord 2025. Good morning, Gamecock fans. JC Shurburtt here with coffee. Obviously, lots to talk about based on events that happened last night. Before we get to that, I want to tell everybody about Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show today. Steve Tannehill, Gamecock legend, will join JB along with Stuart Lake. Stuart and JB are going to chop it up about the baseball transfer portal class, which is looking really, really good, especially from a non-pitching standpoint. Still got to get some pitching in there, some starting pitching, if you will. But looks like roster-wise, that they have helped themselves and got some key players back that kind of, they kept. Thank you to Jeremiah Donati for NIL money to do that. And I think that on paper, you look at D1 baseball, they have the Gamecocks first or second, I think, in the transfer portal class baseball wise. And so next year, if they put all this together, expectations are going to be that it's probably a 180 as far as the season goes. Now, will they go 24-6 in the SEC? I don't know. But the roster, at least, I think it's fair if you weren't going to move on to let Paul Maneri have a chance to shop for the groceries and put together his own team. And it looks like on paper, at least, that's he's put together a pretty good group. So Stuart and JB are getting into all that later. We have Alex Jones, Gamecock Smorgasbord, on the show today with Mad Dog and myself. No show tomorrow. I'm on yard sale duty. No coffee tomorrow unless there's major breaking news, and then we'll pop in with a short one. But going to take the whole day off tomorrow to devote myself to selling trinkets and junk from around the house in the yard. The wife, it's the wife's busy season right now. She's an insurance underwriter, stop loss, and this is when they get all their stuff together. And so she's going to be in front of her laptop all day tomorrow, and it's up to me to go out into the yard. It's a scary place. I mean, I talk to thousands of people every day on these shows. Been on stage, been on screen, giving speeches. Nothing's more terrifying to me than a yard sale. But so I need all my focus on that. But we'll be off, and then next week, kind of an abbreviated schedule as well, because I'm traveling to Columbia for the Wing Off, the third annual Wing Off. You're all invited, by the way. 4 to 8 p.m. at CB 18 Bar and Grill. Speaking of Steve Tannehill, his joint down in 5 Points used to be the old Dr. Rocco's corner of Hardin and Green. Come on out. Would love to see you. It's a lot of fun. It's a blast. Helped raise money for the NIL for student athletes, and we'll have some competing. There's going to be a band, a dunk tank, all that great stuff in Columbia, South Carolina next Saturday, June 21st, 4 to 8 p.m. I know last year was great. I know the year before when we did one in Charleston and in Columbia as well. Great attendance. Got a chance to meet many of you that listen out there, and that's always a good part of what I do is getting out and meeting the folks. So certainly, please come if you want to show some support for the Gamecocks. The Wing Off should be awesome. All right, so last night, kind of all of a sudden, I get a text from a friend of mine who knows some stuff. And it was like, hey, this guy, Isaiah Augustave. That's how you pronounce that's how Gus Johnson pronounced it on the broadcast. Running back, played at Colorado last year. Said, looks like the Gamecocks he's visiting or whatever. By the time we had reported that, he came out and committed. He's 6'2", 210 pounds, was a four-star prospect out of Naples, Florida. Our guys at 24/7 talked about his upside, kind of a developmental guy at running back that has all the speed, but will get better and better. This player, I tell you who he kind of reminds me of is Deshaun Fenwick in some ways. He's maybe a taller, leaner build than Fenwick, 6'2", 210. Fenwick was from the west coast of Florida as well. And he turned out really good. I mean, he left Carolina and went to Oregon State and, made some plays for the Beavers out there. Deshaun played mostly wide receiver and split him out a lot in high school. Isaiah was a running back Freshman year at Arkansas, only played in 4 games, was productive. They did not want him to leave. He left. He goes to Colorado this past season and was the Buffalo's leading rusher on the team. Now, there's a caveat to that because we all know what was up at Colorado last year. It was about the quarterback and the receivers. And they were, I don't have it in front of me, but I would imagine they were one of the most pass happy teams in the country because, Prime's kid was the quarterback. And they threw it a bunch. He had 85 carries, 384 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per carry. There are only 4 games where Isaiah got double-digit carries, and Colorado won all of them. 12 for 41 against Baylor, a 38-31 win. 34-7 at Arizona, 14 for 53, a 34-23 win against Cincinnati at his season high, 22 carries, 91 yards. And then had 10 for 32 and a 41-27 win in Lubbock against Texas Tech. Other than that, it was below the number. But similar to Justice Haynes from Alabama, as far as stats go, Kalen DeBoer didn't give him the ball a whole lot last year either. Of course, that was a little different. They didn't throw it all the time at Bama. You had Jalen Milroe, and you had the other back that actually got more run for the Crimson Tide. Certainly, not comparing the two. I watched his film. I like he's a patient runner. He's got vision. And he's a big kid that will move the pile. I mean, he runs really tough. I like that. Only a couple of breakaway speed type plays. I did notice. I think maybe it was Cincinnati or maybe it was another Utah. He didn't have double digit carries, but he broke off a 37-yarder and took it to the house. And like I said, they didn't run it that much at Colorado last season, but good pickup. I think that, and we've said this a lot, that you need 5 running backs. That's usually the sweet spot to hit with your backfield because you just never know. I mean, you hope you don't have issues with depth. And Carolina last year was fortunate. Rocket Sanders did miss a game, or a good part of a game. He was in for one play against Akron, hurt his ankle. Probably wasn't himself against Ole Miss, but then bounced back pretty well. And then you had Attaway and Howell and Juju McDowell got some snaps too and some carries. But gosh, I remember 2023 at the end because Joyner was banged up and hurt, and he was kind of the backup. Juju was out for the year. By the time the Clemson game rolled around, it's basically Mario Anderson, and that was it. And Carolina kind of went into that season with 4 if you counted DJ Braswell as a true freshman. And then in 2011, Carolina was deep, and not only did Marcus Lattimore get hurt, a lot of other ones got hurt too. And it ended up being that Brandon Wilds, a true freshman, came in and saved the day. He was the 5th team guy to start camp. So sometimes this comes in handy with depth. And as far as where Isaiah ends up on the depth chart, I don't know. If the Rasul Faison thing, which I'm going to talk about, and don't think I'm going to avoid that, because that was the first response when this guy, oh my God, Faison's not getting cleared. But is he? I don't know that I like him as a prospect better than Howell and Fuller. This is just my opinion. Maybe the coaches don't agree, but he's experienced. That matters. And a lot of folks have liked him. Like I said, 24/7 ranked him high. By the way, he was a 4-star out of high school, and with the way I calculate the blue chip ratio, which is since they're going to count high school rankings, I only count players that came in on the roster as scholarship guys, be it the portal, or be it, the regular old way. And, so you count the high school ranking, and there's even some 0 stars in there. But this will put, according to my calculations, which could be wrong because I'm not a mathematician, it puts Carolina right at 50% on the blue chip ratio. So, yay, national championship. Here we come, right? You hit that magic number with this guy. Anyway, Just kind of shows you. Here's another example of this. So in the running back room now, you got two 4 stars. This is high school ranking. So we're talking blue chip ratio now. So you got two 4 stars. Those are Matthew Fuller and Isaiah Augustave. You got a 3 star and Oscar Attaway. Jawarn Howell and Rasul Faison, no stars. That may be your top two. So, and the no star is the guy everybody wants to get eligible. So on that note, this doesn't have all right. So what's going on with Rasul Faison right now? They are still waiting on the NCAA. Nothing definitive either way. The feedback they've gotten has been kind of back and forth on it. It just is it's this wishy-washy thing, and this is why people hate the NCAA because it's basically it functions as like an academic bureaucracy is what I call it, which means it's staffed by a bunch of academics, a bunch of folks that probably like your admissions people or your and nothing against those fine American people. You know, I mean, I'm not coming down on them, but it's no way to run a sports organization. You know, have committee after committee after committee, a committee to have a committee, the vote. I mean, you know, and you just never know. And some of these people are clueless. I mean, and common sense evades them. And you know, you just wait and wait and wait. You're at the mercy of their timeline. And obviously they got a lot going on. Shane Beamer said that. But this should have been done one way or the other. My theory on it is probably this. Actually, there's no probably. That's my theory. It's just an opinion. But what I think is they had their ass handed to them in court in New Jersey by the Jet Elad guy that actually has played a bunch of college football. I mean, he's played double the amount of college football that Rasul's played. You know, he actually played on the team his freshman year, you know, wherever he enrolled early and bounced back and forth between JUCO and the MAC. You know, it's he probably shouldn't be eligible if we're talking about this at the end of the day. Rasul, what they're holding against him is one spring where he gray shirted and practiced at Marshall, and then he was out of football for a couple of years. How is this fair? But Rutgers well, Jet went to federal court in New Jersey right away, 0 to 60, done, and sued and said this is $500,000 I'm going to miss out on, and then they got an injunction and he's eligible. So based on that, you know, I think that the NCAA is getting its pants in a wad a little bit. South Carolina and Faison, because it's not South Carolina. You keep in mind, people want to take shots at the coaching staff and it, you know, the president. You know, the university isn't like getting their legal. Nobody is getting their legal counsel, their lawyers to go represent. That violates all kinds of stuff. It's up to the kid, and of course the kid. I'm not saying that there's no advice being given or whatever, but they try to do it the right way because at the end of the day, you know, it's not like this guy is going into his 8th year of college football, which we've seen around the country. A different school. Miami had a guy in his 9th year last year. And so we've seen this. I mean, this guy's played very little football in the grand scheme of things. And you know, his life story and life experience, he qualifies for hardship. You know, he qualifies for eligibility. But I think they're sandbagging it because they know that it's a loser in court. South Carolina, and South Carolina does deal with the NCAA, the university does. They're trying to do it the right way and not sue and not be like whoever else. And I understand the argument. Well, they should. Everybody else is doing it. Why don't we? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I don't think there was anybody with a brain that, you know, sat there and looked at it and said it would be this complicated, you know, based on precedent. Diego Pavia should not be eligible if Rasul Faison's not eligible. I don't care about the clock and when it started and starting a clock on a guy that doesn't play. I mean, even if you're on the team and you stand on the sidelines and don't get your, you know, your red shirting or I get that, but he didn't play. He just let, I mean, you know, give the dude a break. But I think they're sandbagging because they know it takes time to go to court. Courts are backlogged still, not as much as they used to be, but uh, and they know, well, if we run out the clock here on the Gamecocks, they may not have time to sue. But I hear they're going to push. That's why they're pushing for a decision because of next steps. But we're here. It's almost mid-June. Season starts August 31st. You know, we we're coming down to it here. But it's pathetic how the NCAA, for a kid and a school that's trying to do it the right way and not one up them like University of Tennessee. It's amazing how they're treated, and that's why that organization's a sad, sad, sad group. That's why there's a college sports commission now that's independent of those people to enforce NIL because they're not even close to capable of doing anything in that space. And so it's just it's pathetic. It's sick. Sickens my stomach because I guarantee you it's either above the heads of the people that are actually the deciders on this, and they're saying slow play, oh, we got to stop this or whatever, or there's just blithering idiots up there with that lack common sense and this arbitrary application of whatever, and arbitrary is a good word when it comes to the NCAA. But I can tell you this was not getting Augustave is not oh God, we got bad news. He's not playing, so let's go get a guy. It was not out of panic. He's actually a good player. And what happened with Isaiah? He left Colorado. They were surprised. They didn't want him to leave. Virginia and Tony Elliott had him in. He was committed there. And the University of Virginia, i.e., Thomas Jefferson University, the public ivy, oh, Carruthers. Whoa. And if I'm a Virginia fan, I can just point to this and say, this is why we don't win. Notre Dame's got good academics too. I don't think this guy would have a problem getting into Notre Dame. But their admissions, like there's some courses apparently at the University of Colorado, a good school, not some, it's not like some junior college or anything like that. It's a good school. And at Arkansas, another solid state supported school. They didn't translate to the courses that they had. And that admissions looks at that. It's like it's another insane thing. It's their course catalog. And so, in other words, if some admissions person looks at and reads a course description from Colorado and they don't believe, because it's all subjective. They don't believe that that's the same course they have at Virginia, that it's not going to transfer. And so he had to get out of that. Some Colorado folks thought he was coming back to Boulder, and South Carolina went in and got him, originally from Naples, Florida, like I said. I think when he got in the portal from Arkansas last year, because of all the ties to Arkansas, on South Carolina staff, I think there was, probably a conversation or two, and he ends up going to Boulder. But if you're going to get a portal back on June 12th, yeah, somebody led a Power 4 team in rushing last year that, won its share of games, no matter how pass happy their offense is. That's a good thing. So it's kind of an all of the above. If things can't get done with Faison for whatever reason, which is gonna, I don't know, it's sick. Again, I mean, sick. I rarely use physically ill analogies, but it makes me sick to my stomach to think that they're not going to approve this guy when you look at everybody else that has. I mean, come on. I understand, man. Like, if you got a player like the point guard at Tennessee, who's played all 4 years, he knew the rules going in, who's trying to just get a fifth year just because, or the kids at North Carolina and Duke, like J.J. Jones was one of those that said some things happen, but clearly you look at all the years they've played, blah, blah, blah. This is just a clock thing. And I'm like, and look, I don't think we need 30-year-olds playing college, but I don't know how you can sit there and say, when there's been adversity, and reasons why, he hadn't been, didn't start his football career until he got to Snow Junior College. Uh, there's reasons why. Going back, I don't know why if you have a brain, I don't know why this isn't an open and shut case, unless there's something I just don't know. I don't know everything, folks. I don't read the petitions. I don't have his transcript. I don't know the hardships. But yeah, it's going to be sick. But it doesn't directly have to do with Faison because if they had an opportunity to sign a good player at running back, they were going into the second portal window. It was D tackle definitely, and they got Pikes. They needed to shore up the numbers on the offensive line, but five backs is the ideal number. On top of that, Augustave he has 3 years of eligibility left because he redshirted at Arkansas, only played in 4 games. So he's basically a redshirt freshman last year. So he's a redshirt sophomore, just like Jawarn Howell is now. And then Matthew Fuller's a redshirt freshman. So he's a young guy. He's a young man still. Best days are ahead of him. And then Attaway, of course, is in his 7th year. And Faison will be in like his 4th or 5th year playing football, being on a football team. But, obviously 7th year since he started in college. So you got very old and somewhat young in the running back room now, but a nice pickup. I mean, really nice pickup late, and we'll see where he fits in. It's running back is one of those spots. It's like I'm not even gonna, I believe Faison's gonna be the starter if he's eligible. I believe Attaway is gonna play a role somewhere. I love Jawarn Howell and Matthew Fuller. Where exactly Gustav fits in, I couldn't tell you. What's the order rotation going to be? I couldn't tell you. It's one where there's pros and cons everywhere, and we'll see how it shakes out. And that's good. If you're South Carolina, that having competition and not knowing really who your top guys are right now, because they're all pretty good and they're going to battle it out and separate, that's going to be good. I mean, because it's going to get everybody better. So, yeah, another member of the roster puts the blue chip ratio at 50%, according to my calculations. The NCAA is goofy and dorky and awful and stupid. And they lack common sense. But what else is new, JC? What else is new? We've seen this before. And this time, I want to add one more thing. I know people are, South Carolina, it never works out, blah, 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 blah. I think this is a little different, just because it's a little more egregious, in my opinion. And, there have been good players that appeals have been denied, and it's just stunk. Heck, we talked about one on during the crosstalk on the morning show and the show that with John Strickland about Mike Rath, who applied and appealed for a year when Spurrier first got there, and then he was denied. And Blake Mitchell was the obvious starting quarterback, but Carolina didn't really have a backup that year. Strickland thinks Blake would have ended up winning the job, even with Mike Rath there. Some believe Rath would have won it. I don't know. I thought Blake had a really good arm, but they would have at least had a guy that wasn't Antonio Hefner to put in the game and start. But he was denied. Gosh, remember the basketball player whose name escapes me that Frank Martin could not, they could not get him eligible. He was caught up in the Adidas Louisville thing. So, I mean, it's just, it doesn't go Carolina's way in a lot of instances. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. Sometimes, Miles Studi got cleared pretty quick this off season for a hardship. And, so we don't hear as much about that because of the sting of the ineligibility. But, somebody asked me last night about why you don't just play him anyway and tell the NCAA to go jump. And here's why. Because it's not what the NCAA is necessarily going to do to you. It's the SEC and it's opposing coaches. I mean, you play an ineligible player, everybody that plays you is going to protest, and because you know how it is. No, nobody fundamentally in college football, and this is something that needs to change too, internally. You know, and I'm very empathetic with coaches and programs and the sport part of it. But at some point, if you care about the sport as a whole and you want to continue to have it competitive, you have to stop, you know, looking for, these competitive advantages that, only benefit your school or like the whole, well, we're just going to opt out of the house settlement and well, all our players are going to do it and nothing you can, we're just going to keep on paying players. I get it. It's a good thing, but you don't, nobody needs to be playing you if that's what's going to happen, because it's a critical time right now that everybody follow the rules as best they can. Now, some school sets up a badass NIL program that's legit, that Deloitte approves, and it's through the media, and it's legit and above board, but it is designed to funnel lots of money and legit NIL to your players. That's America, baby. That is doing what you can within the rules to have a financial advantage. But if you're sitting there going like, well, in my state, we can do this. Well, okay, well, then play everybody in your state. Play Austin P and Middle Tennessee and Vanderbilt and Memphis and Tennessee Tech, East Tennessee State, Chattanooga. Am I up to 12 games yet? You get the picture. I mean, come on. But anyway, that's Faison, and is it related to Faison? No. Is it good to have this guy Augustave just in case to have another older back? Yes. Is it good to sign Colorado's leading rusher no matter how infrequently they run the ball? Yes. 4.5 yards a carry. A good vision guy finds his holes. They're going to need a block for him, just like Colorado needed a block for him. But and then that one play against Utah where he broke into the end zone for a touchdown, that was a good run. Because when you watch the kind of the 4 and 5 yarders, they're impressive, but you're like, well, this guy is not. When's he shot out of a cannon or whatever? But he had a wide open hole against Utah and took it to the house. Nobody had a good angle on him. So he's capable player. And there's a lot of people that like through the years since he's been a recruit in high school, they've liked him. Landon Duckworth. The second piece of news last night, I reported, Hayes Fawcett reported, Steve Wiltfong reported that the four-star quarterback from Jackson, Alabama, has canceled his official visits to Ole Miss and Florida State. Florida State kind of is like, long ago, said they weren't getting him. Ole Miss, that was kind of one, and I sat here and talked about it for a long time. You got Lane Kiffin. There were reports that he had the best relationship with Lane and Ole Miss. You have Florida State with Gus Malzahn. He's a great scheme fit there. But Mike Shula, South Carolina, his first love, came back strong. He had a wonderful official visit. Aiden Harris actually broke the news. Hale McGranahan reported that Aiden Harris told him that it was down to Auburn and Carolina. And sure enough, there you go. That's what happened. Everybody else is kind of worried about Florida and Florida State and Ole Miss, and myself included. I mean, like I said, we've talked about this. I've said this a long time. And normally somebody commits that early to your school and then decommits and these other schools jump in. It's ominous. It's rare that Carolina's sitting in this position just in terms of college football recruiting trends. But credit Mike Shula, credit Shane Beamer, credit Darren Usher, credit the Garnet Trust and the NIL guys. That's it's a lot of credit to be thrown around. Now here's the caveat. Here's the potential landmine, because, and this is one of those things too that's happened before. But keep in mind, this has kind of been an atypical recruitment because early commit. I mean, look at Peyton Dyer that took the cheap shot the other day when he committed to Southern Cal. Good luck, by the way, going all the way out there from Atlanta. I've made the Atlanta to LA flight many times. It sucks. We're talking about the real USC. Come on, man. I mean, you were a super early commit. They took your commitment. Then you got a bunch of offers, and you're just a little too good, I guess, for South Carolina or whatever. And then you make the genius decision. A lot of these Georgia kids commit to Southern Cal early and end up flipping back, by the way. Genius decision to roll on out there and play for the Trojans. I guess because that one guy that recruits Georgia for them is pretty convincing. And, that far from home and all that, and you're on defense, which they don't emphasize. And you got to fly all over the country and all that. And I'm not trashing Southern Cal. It's a great program. Uh, I can see where it would be appealing. But the issue I had, you took a shot, the Rodney Colton, who was an early commit, also from Georgia, who would just visit every school and pump them up and talk them up while also staying committed. And Carolina eventually just dropped him. My point of all that is unless it's an in-state guy, or unless it's a guy that in-state guys, and then some quarterbacks. If you're the quarterback in the class, you stick with it. And in-state's more helpful though. Then they usually, if they back out, they usually do because look, here's my thing on it. It's too fun, and you're a high school kid. That's why I don't really like super duper early commits. But yeah, so this is kind of rare coming back. Landon Duckworth doing that, but he's the guy Shula kind of zeroed in on in this class. Brady Smigel was a player, the quarterback out of California, the 4-star guy they could have if they had pushed. I believe wholeheartedly they could have landed him. Because he did, Washington was all over him and wanted him bad. Jed Fish, they had a good, sweet NIL deal on the table. He ends up at Michigan, though. So there's something about Washington and Seattle specifically he and his family didn't like, but they like South Carolina, and they were going to go to Florida State, but not a scheme fit there. But they could have had that guy, I think. But they wanted Duckworth, and they stayed the course, and I like that. But back to the caveat. According to Steve Wiltfong, and we'll see if this ultimately happens, but he's the oracle. I mean, it makes sense. He could be visiting Auburn again this weekend unofficially. He's already taken his official visit there. And I know, again, that I don't want to say PTSD because there's people with actual PTSD out there that really struggle with it. But the bad memories of going head to head against Auburn, even as recently as last year with the defensive end, Jared Smith. I think Jared Smith was his name. Hopefully. Gosh, I used to be really much better than this with names. But, in-state Alabama guy, here comes Auburn. At the end, Hugh Freeze. They try to be very convincing. They do have a lot of recruiting momentum and a lot of in-state players. And here's what you got to tell him if you're Auburn. You drive past the Auburn exit to go to Columbia, South Carolina from Jackson, Alabama. Jackson is down kind of between Montgomery and Mobile and the south end of the state. You go get on 85 and go up through Montgomery and past Auburn through Atlanta and all that. Now, is that going to be a convincing enough argument? I don't know. I tend to think NIL cash would probably be another convincing argument. But if Landon Duckworth, and this is where being committed early to me maybe helps Carolina because he's made that drive many, many times. He's driven right past Auburn many, many times. Auburn wasn't, even when he decommitted, considered to be in the mix because they got Deuce Knight, the 5-star quarterback from Mississippi, right there on campus. You got Jackson Arnold, who's a redshirt sophomore. South Carolina does have Cutter Woods and Aaron Nolan, and I'm sure Auburn's talking about that. But you got Lenore Sellers, who could be, going pro after next year. And if you're Landon Duckworth, you're probably looking at the depth chart and thinking, well, after this year, Sellers and Doty will be gone. He leaves Nolan and Woods. They're the same age. You may lose one. He could be the backup quarterback in 2026 just by kind of default. And that matters with quarterbacks because what they do is they'll give it a year. If they're not making any noise, they'll transfer. Or if it looks like they've been recruited over, they'll transfer. So, that's the thing there. So Auburn's got kind of a tough sell from a football standpoint. I don't know about the other sales pitches that they're going to put into him, but it would be a big, big comeback by them. And I'm not telling you that there's not I'm not saying momentum, but Auburn's closed it. The gap. I mean, I think they've given him a lot to think about just based on the feedback. But here's the feedback from South Carolina. The kid had a great visit. I put in a crystal ball a couple of weeks ago or last week. I was told, he's a done deal. There are no done deals in recruiting, by the way, as we know, especially these days. But the feedback on South Carolina is, they're very confident. And I am too. I'm just, with this type of stuff, folks, you got to say confident, but you can never rule out the things changing dramatically in 24 hours because there's a lot out there to influence these guys now. And even before we had NIL and the portal and all that good stuff, it was still high school kids and their families. And, a lot of thought goes into these decisions and all that good stuff. So I'm still confident my crystal ball is not changing. Tom Loy from 24/7 Sports dropped some info on thebigspur.com about it. He feels good across the board. Everybody kind of feels good still about Duckworth, but there is the Auburn thing, and he is a Jackson, Alabama product. Alabama. Anyway, folks, again, no official visitors this weekend. No coffee in the morning unless there's some major breaking news. I'll pop in with a special episode. I got to do a yard sale. I will have the schedule for next week, which will be different for both the show and the morning. I mean, for both the show and coffee. And it'll bleed into the Monday of the following week too for travel. But I'll have that schedule for you Monday morning. So have a great weekend if I don't pop back in. And I say that about breaking news because it's news time, man, right? Didn't even mention the kickoff windows. Phil and I, me and the Mad Dog and Alex will chop that up later this afternoon. We'll also continue to talk about Duckworth and some of the other top prospects like Kamari Blair. That's an intriguing topic right now in the world of Gamecock recruiting. All right, folks. This has been Coffee with JC Shurburtt. Please be sure to check out the wing eating contest in Columbia if you're around next Saturday. Also, don't forget our sponsors like Tony Pope State Farm Insurance, TonyPope.com, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Love everything he does for us. This Coffee with JC Shurburtt. Holla at you soon.